Is Lebanon about to come out of hell? About to throw off the shackles, the slavery of the demonic powers of the Iranian regime and the Hezbollah satanic force that has controlled Lebanon for so much of the last several decades? This is a big question because Lebanon has just elected a reasonable, rational president who apparently wants to lead Lebanon out of hell and into something much, much better. Maybe even the possibility of Lebanon joining the Abraham Accords and making peace with Israel. Hi, this is Joel Rosenberg in Jerusalem with a YouTube exclusive. More going on right now than we could possibly cover on the weekly primetime show of the Rosenberg Report. So we're going to cover some other things. Lebanon is one of those topics, but there are a few others I just want to mention right up front. Ding dong, the witch is dead. The leader of Canada, the horrible leader of Canada, Justin Trudeau, has given up the ghost. All right, he's not dead. I don't mean that, but he has resigned. And he was not a friend of Israel. He's not a friend of the Jewish people. He's not a friend of evangelical Christians. And I can't tell you how happy I am that Justin Trudeau has resigned. And elections are coming in Canada, and the Conservatives there are surging in the polls. And I think we could have a huge, great new ally to the United States and to Israel coming up very, very soon. So I want to mention that. It's part of all the dynamics that are going on in this region. I want to look at the new president of Lebanon and tell you why this is so significant. Lebanon elects a president who's not a puppet of Iran and Hezbollah. This is a big deal. His name is Joseph Aoun. He's the former head of Lebanon's army. Okay, he's a Maronite Christian. He's not a Muslim. He's a Maronite Christian. Now, I can't tell you what that means to him personally in terms of whether he's a personal relationship with Jesus Christ, whether he's born again. I don't know that, but I know that he's a Maronite Christian. He comes from a Christian family, comes from a Christian background. That's interesting. He was elected on January 9th. He was elected with 99 votes out of the 120 votes in the Lebanese parliament. Why is that interesting? It's interesting because for a year and a half, Lebanon has not been able to elect a president. Now, again, to be clear, the president of Lebanon is elected by the parliament, not by the people, okay? So the people's representatives in the parliament, they're the ones who choose, but there has been such deadlock inside the parliament for the last year and a half since the previous president stepped down. Now, Joseph Aoun, again, the former head of the army in Lebanon, and he was backed by the United States, backed by France, interestingly backed by Egypt, and backed by Saudi Arabia. These are four countries that care a lot about the future of Lebanon and are very vested in the Iranian regime not getting to choose the leader of Lebanon. Because the dynamic has changed dramatically, right? Israel has destroyed 80% of Iran's investment in Lebanon in terms of destroying 80% of Hezbollah's missile arsenal, rocket arsenal, drone arsenal, took out all the top leadership of Hezbollah, including the demonic mastermind of Hezbollah, Sheikh Hassan Nasrallah, who was killed in an Israeli airstrike in Beirut. The dynamic has changed, right? Hezbollah is been seriously degraded. They're not defeated yet, but they're acting defeated. Suddenly, Hezbollah feels very vulnerable, very much alone. And the Lebanese people are starting to think, is this our moment? Is this our moment to rise up and cast off the shackles of this Hezbollah Iranian slavery? I think the answer is yes, but given the history of Lebanon, I can't tell you exactly what's going to happen. But in this moment, suddenly, with Iran weakened, Hezbollah severely degraded, Bashar al-Assad gone, Israel taking the lead at setting our country free from the threat of Hezbollah and Iran, this is also helping set free the Lebanese people. The question is, who would rise up in the Lebanese leadership and take advantage of this moment? Now this may be the person, Joseph Aoun. I want to read you some quotes that Joseph Aoun, the new president of Lebanon, has said. What did he say, on the day that he took power after being elected on January 9th? So this is just a few days old as you hear this. One of the first things that Joseph Aoun, the new president of Lebanon, said is, quote, "I say to the Lebanese people everywhere, we are entering a new era for Lebanon. Let's pray to God that that's true. There's all the possibility. I am cautiously optimistic that not only will Joseph Aoun help Lebanon leave this hellhole it's been in, but might actually begin to rebuild the sovereignty and the security of Lebanon, and maybe even lead to peace. But one step at a time, okay? So he's vowing, Aoun is vowing a new era in Lebanon. I take an oath, he said, to preserve this nation and pledge to fully assume my presidential responsibilities and to protect the freedoms of the Lebanese people. Good. So that's a good quote. That's a good first message. Now, what else did he say? Quote, we need equality between all citizens, because to have a state, you need equality in the eyes of the law. Now, he got specific about this. Joseph Aoun said, this means an end to the mafias, an end to drug trafficking, an end to interference in the justice system that currently protects criminals in Lebanon. He said justice is the only protection for all citizens. The structure of the Constitution, the system of Lebanon, is designed for Shia Muslims, Sunni Muslims, and Christians to share power and work together to build a future. And what he's saying is there has to be equality. The Shia Muslims can't dominate and control. They're not even the biggest number of Lebanese. There has to be equality. Christian minorities have to have an assurance that they're going to have justice, that they're not going to be treated as slaves. Let's continue with another quote by Joseph Aoun, the new president of Lebanon. Quote, the authorities, meaning the Lebanese government, will have a monopoly on arms. The state must invest in its army to be able to protect its borders, fight smuggling and terrorism, and he adds, to prevent Israeli aggression on its territory. And he got a huge applause for this section. Now, is that a criticism of Israel? No, it's not. A criticism of the United States? No. Who's he taking a bank shot there off of? Iran. He's criticizing Iran's regime and Hezbollah. Why? Because Hezbollah is not a government. It's a terror army. And the Lebanese government and army has arms, but so does Hezbollah. And it's Hezbollah that's dragged Lebanon into war with Israel. It's not the Lebanese people. Most of the Lebanese people are opposed to this war, hate the destruction, and are often too scared, to be honest, too scared to speak out against Hezbollah. How could they? I mean, it would take an enormous amount of courage to speak out about Hezbollah. But now that Hezbollah is weakened, now that Hezbollah is on the ropes, and so is Iran's regime, Joseph Aoun is saying the Lebanese government, the Lebanese people, Lebanese army, which he used to run, needs to have the monopoly on the arms. We cannot have militias, terror groups, mafias with arms. That's critical to a sovereign and free people. The government has the weapons, not terrorists. Now, I'm not talking about in America where you have the Second Amendment and the right to have your own hunting weapon or a pistol or whatever for your personal safety or for sport. I absolutely believe that. But my point is, in Lebanon, that's not what's going on, right? And Aoun is dealing with that in his opening address. He continues, here's another key quote. He says, I will work to revitalize the role of the security forces. Why is that important? Because he, as a former commander of the Lebanese army, is saying it's time for the Lebanese army to protect the nation of Lebanon. Again, from new Lebanese President Joseph Aoun. Quote, my mandate will be one of openness to the East and the West, to the international community, based on mutual respect, Lebanon's sovereignty, and the country's freedom to make its own decisions. Why is that such a big deal? It's a big deal because Lebanon has not had sovereignty. It hasn't been able to work with America and Western democracies and Eastern democracies. It hasn't been able to work well with the Arab world. Why? Because Iran's regime has been running it. Hezbollah has been suffocating the people of Lebanon. I don't want you to think that I'm telling you that Lebanon's troubles are over. Lebanon is in a deep hole, and it's going to take a long time to get out of it. But would peace between Lebanon and Israel help the Lebanese people? Yes. Would Lebanon throwing off the shackles of being enslaved by the Iranian regime and Hezbollah help Lebanon get back in the right direction? Absolutely. Now, yes, at some point when the war of Gog and Magog happens, the Russian, Iranian, Turkish forces are coming from the north. They're going to come rolling right through Lebanon and right through Syria. I don't think that's where we are right now. I don't think so. What I think is happening is Israel's defeating its enemies by the mercies of God and the prayers of Christians all over the world, interceding on behalf of Israel. And I think that Israel is emerging as the main and only superpower, dominant power in the Middle East, and is going to start making peace with many of its neighbors. I think peace with a newly liberated from Iran and Hezbollah Lebanon government, Lebanese people, is possible. for the first time. Will it last? No, it probably won't last. But would it be good for the next couple of years, next couple of decades? Absolutely. So this is a big deal. And there's very little coverage, very little analysis right now because so much else is happening in the world. But I believe we're seeing some of the Trump factor. Donald Trump is coming in and he's backing Israel strongly, and everybody else is trying to recalculate what's going to happen when Trump's in charge instead of the snowflake, weak Biden and Harris. But I'm encouraged by where Lebanon is right now and where it seems to be going. And I want you to be praying about that. One more thing, I want to read you a few last quotes about Canada's worst prime minister finally stepping down to the relief of Canadian Jews and the Israel supporters, of which there are many in Canada. And I just want to close by reading an excerpt from a column in Israel's largest newspaper, Israel Hayom. Quote, "Media outlets and public figures have labeled Justin Trudeau the worst prime minister in Canadian history. Indeed," says the author, "millions of Canadians are eager to turn the page on this dark chapter. For Canadian Jews in particular, Trudeau's resignation offers a glimmer of hope, a chance to confront the virulent strain of anti-Semitism that has taken root in Justin Trudeau's Canada. This government has capitulated to extremists and has allowed Canada to become a place where radical Islamists feel safe to chant pro-terror rhetoric openly. Every other day, Canadian Jews have had to watch anti-Semites sport Heil Hitler signs or burn Israeli and Canadian flags." The author continues, "We constantly hear hateful slogans on our streets like 'Death to Israel, Death to Canada.' Groups associated with terror organizations such as the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine and the Islamic regime in Iran have acted with impunity in Canada, spreading pro-terror rhetoric without fear of consequence. Canada," he continues to write, "once a beacon of moral clarity on the global stage, has turned its back on Israel. Since October 7th, anti-Semitism in Canada has surged, wait for it, 670% compared to the previous year." Now, personally, I'm not advocating for Canada to become the 51st state of the United States. I appreciate President Trump with his America First policy I'd be totally supportive of him renaming the Gulf of Mexico into the Gulf of America. I like that. I definitely want Trump to push Canada to be a pro-American ally, a true ally, and a pro-Israel ally, rather than this mess that Justin Trudeau has created. But I don't want to see Canada become the 51st state of the United States. Anyway, these are the big stories that are going on right now. As President Trump comes to power on January 20th, the world is changing. Let's pray that it's for the better, or at least mostly for the better, but we'll keep tracking it every step of the way at All Israel News, All Arab News, and of course on the Rosenberg Report. From Jerusalem, I'm Joel Rosenberg. Thanks for watching.